The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read. Your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
When it comes to mental health in the US, there's a lot of talk and little action. Many fault mental illness for things like mass shootings, even though most mentally ill are not violent. But few point out that every year, close to 44 million adults will experience a mental illness, and less than half will receive care. And 40% of those with severe mental illnesses like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder won't get the help they need.
Welcome to the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. Today on this beautiful Sunday, we're going to talk about America's mental health problem. And the reason why this is important, people, is because this country is experiencing a mental health problem so bad that we have dwindled down into hiring people like Donald Trump to be president. You got bigotry and racism on the rise. You got mass killings, shootings, people shooting at people at funerals. It's a problem. I'm going to talk about white mental health issues, and I'm going to talk about black mental health issues. Now, the reason I'm going to start with white and blacks, and I'm not going to talk about Hispanic mental health issues, Japanese mental health issues, Chinese mental health issues, is because all the other races in this country, okay, all of the other races in this country, it doesn't mean that they don't matter. It means that they are feeding off the hatred and the love-hate relationship between blacks and whites. Let me explain that. Let me explain that to you. The original sin of this country, the original sin was slavery. Slavery led to the Civil War. It led to Jim Crow. It led to the Civil Rights Movement. There has always been a battle back and forth between blacks and whites helping blacks free themselves and blacks moving up the ladder and slowly crawling up the ladder in our culture, in our history of America. All of the other races that came into this country, the Chinese American, the Japanese American, the Mexican American, they have a mental health issue also that feeds off the love-hate relationship that blacks and whites have in this country. Y'all got to understand this. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a psychiatrist to see this, okay? I am not a psychiatrist and I'm not a rocket scientist, but I can see what's going on in this country. And if all of you that's listening to my voice was to sit back, think about our history, think about what's going on in our politics, think about what's going on with this coronavirus, you will have an understanding that brother right there, he telling you right. This love-hate relationship that whites and blacks have in this country, where whites like the tan skin, but they don't like black people. Blacks like the Rolls Royces and the BMWs and the yachts, but some of us don't like white people. This whole back and forth between the races of whites and blacks in this country is so traumatizing that we have millions and millions of whites and blacks in this country that have mental health issues. You see, whenever you see Chinese Americans, you hardly ever see them date black men. They might date white men, or they might date their own. When you see Mexicans, they might date other Mexicans, or they might date white men. When you see Puerto Ricans, they might date black men or Puerto Ricans, but they hardly date white men. I'm not talking about the exception. You see, there's going to be some knucklehead going to get up here and say, I'm Puerto Rican, I date white men. I'm not saying that. I'm Japanese and I date black men. I'm not saying that. There's always an exception to the rule. I'm talking about the overall population. You see, all of the other races in this country, they feeding off of the hatred that blacks and whites have for each other in this country. And these races are taking sides. Whites, a lot of whites, I'm not going to say all whites, but there's a lot of whites in this country that hate Mexicans. But when it comes down to Mexicans siding with blacks, they rather side with white people. Like I said, there's always exceptions to the rule. You might see a Mexican woman dating a black guy over here or over here. But the overall majority of Mexicans that come here to this country, they either deal with their own or they deal with white people. So when I talk about overall, I'm not talking about the exception to the rule. I don't need nobody getting in my inbox talking about I'm Spanish American and I date black men. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the overall populations. The overall Dominicans, they either date other Dominicans or they date black people. The overall Samoans, they either date Samoans or they date white people. You see, all the other races, I'm not saying that they don't count, but all the other races in this country are feeding off the love or the hate that whites and blacks have for each other, and they're choosing sides. It's a subconscious thing. Just sit back and listen to what I'm saying. Sit back and analyze what I'm saying. I'm not talking about that there is no Mexicans that don't date blacks. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, this is where the mental ill part comes in at. A lot of whites in this country don't like Mexicans. They don't want you here. They feel like all of y'all are illegal. But when it comes down to the vast majority of Mexicans fooling with blacks, they rather fool with white people who majority of them or a lot of them don't like them than fool with black people. It's crazy. This is what you call a mental illness that's grinding its way through this country. Grinding. I'm talking about it's grinding its way through this country. And it's a shame. Nobody's paying attention to it. I played you that clip because I wanted to bring attention to the mental health part of why there's so much craziness going on in this country. You got people like Candace Owens on the black side of the mental health issue. Have any of y'all just sat back and watched this lady? Just sit back and look at her sometimes. She's buck broken. Buck broken, if you don't know what that is, look it up. I'm not even going to explain to you what it is. Look it up. It's going to amaze you when you find out what it is. You see, buck broken people, they don't have to be buck broken through whips and beatings. You can be buck broken through somebody showing you all kinds of fantastic things. Like, give you an example about Candace Owens. She's married to a white man. This white man, I have heard for myself, espouse a lot of racist comments. Now, in your mind, you saying, now why would a black woman talk the way she talked about other black Americans and help white supremacy? When I say buck broken, you got to understand what that means. It doesn't mean that somebody done beat her into submission. Somebody could have took her to France. The first black woman in her community, where she grew up around a lot of poor people, a lot of poor black people. They say she had a run-in with a racist back in the days, and the NAACP helped her win a lawsuit. So now you got a white man who might be a white supremacist who takes her to France, take her to England. She sits on a patio eating crepes, sipping wine. Now she's broken. She couldn't get this in the hood with around all the black people. So now anything that these white supremacists say, she's going to side with it. Because she feels in her mind that can't be too much wrong. Look at me. I don't fool with those people. Those people over there, those black people over there, We the righteous black people over here. That type of stuff. So I'm before I get too deep into the mental health issues of blacks and whites, I'm not going to touch on none of the other races, because the other races of people in this country are feeding off the love-hate relationship of blacks and whites. So I'm just going to focus on whites at first for the next segment, and then for the last segment I'm going to focus on blacks' mental health issues. And that's what's driving this country into a complete meltdown. And this is another thing I'm going to prove to you why this is true. Look at the Indian people that come here from other countries, that open up all these gas stations and liquor stores. If you ever notice, Hindu Indian people, they'll marry their own kind, or they might be married to a white man or a white woman. But you hardly ever see Indian people date blacks and marry blacks. Because like I said, all the other races in this country, with the exception of the rules, you're going to have some Indian woman get in my inbox, say, I'm an Indian woman from India and I married a black man. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about if you really analyze what I'm saying and take a step back and look at the overall races of people in this country, the overall, you will see that all the individual races in this country are feeding off the love and hate relationship between blacks and whites in this country. And they're subconsciously taking sides. You see more blacks who are more Hispanics who are Puerto Rican, Dominican, and the people from Haiti and Jamaica. They will marry their own kind, or they will marry black, with the exception of the rule. Then when you look at other Spanish American countries like Spain and South America, with the exception to the rule, some of them might marry, one or two of them might marry blacks. But the overall majority of them, they fool white people. You see, y'all got to get this understood. It's a mental health thing in this country. All of these other races, I'm not saying that they don't count, because they mean something to this country, to the contribution of this country. But they are feeding off of the hatred, the decades and centuries of hatred, the back and forth between whites and blacks. And I want to give a shout out to Miss Joyce Ryder. She sent me something over text message that she wanted me to talk about on the show. It's about this thing that they put on everybody's phone. I don't know how to find it on iPhone, iOS, but I know how to find it on Google phones, the phones that do Google apps and stuff like that. And this app is basically tracking people. It's weird. This is some strange stuff. I've never seen nothing like this. And they never told the population that they were doing this, because I never heard of this. I'm finna show it to you. For anybody want to know about this, again, this came from like anybody out there that want to send me some good information I can investigate, I will investigate it and I will give you the real on it. Okay? She said, open up your phone. I opened up my phone. I went to the settings. Okay? I went to the settings. Once you go to the settings, this screen is going to pop up. Okay? You got to go down to Google. Right here, Google. I went to the wrong one. You got to go to Google. Once you go to Google, you're going to see right here at the top, it says COVID-19. It says COVID-19 exposure notifications. It says off. You could turn it on. Mind you now, she warned me, if you turn it on, the government can track your phone and wherever you go. This is some strange stuff. I've never seen nothing like this on any phone. It says COVID-19 exposure notifications off. If you turn it on, they can track your phone. The government can track your phone. The government probably track these phones anyway. But this particular button right here, I've never seen nothing like this. They just put these on these phones, and I think they're on iOS also. It has a little red dot up there. COVID-19. It says COVID-19 exposure notification off. I keep mine off because I don't know what this is, and I'm gonna try to look further into it and give y'all more details. But that's some weird stuff. I've never seen that, and I want to thank Miss Joyce Ryder from Murfreesboro. Actually, she lives in Smyrna. Miss Joyce Ryder, I want to thank you for sending me that information, because that's something I'm going to look deeper into, and we got to find out what this is. I've never seen nothing like this. But when we come back off this next commercial break, I'm finna start going into further detail about the bigotry between whites and blacks in this country, and how mental health plays a big part in this. And we're gonna come back and we're gonna discuss this. I'm not gonna talk about no other races but whites and blacks, because all the other races in this country feed off the love-hate relationship between whites and blacks. So we'll be back in just a second.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
All right, people, we're back with the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. Now, in the first segment, I was talking about how, there's a love-hate relationship that leads to bigotry and systemic racism in this country when you're dealing with whites and blacks. All the rest of the races population, the racist people, the race of people in this country, all the rest of them feed off of us, because the original sin of America was slavery. And this was before Chinese Americans, this was before Japanese Americans, this was before Hispanic Americans. The original sin in this country, the original, was slavery. And over the years and decades and centuries, we have become a melting pot of people. And that melting pot of people All of the people feed off of the love-hate relationship between whites and blacks. So right now on this segment, we're going to talk about white American mental illness and where it comes from. Okay? This is going to mess some of y'all up. For some of my white friends who know, y'all know me. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably, I'm not going to say I'm one of the least racist people. All of us have biases. Biases doesn't mean racism. Biases can mean, I don't like how he dressed. He dressed like a bum. That don't mean you racist. So all of us have biases towards other people and other things. I'm talking about the mass hatred and bigotry and mental illness in some of these white people in this country. You see, this didn't show up in the bubble. This comes from like I said, slavery. It comes from the fact that whites can't go out here and slap you and spit on you and kick you in your rear end just for laughs and giggles, because they might get beat up. They might get shot. You can't, that stuff y'all seen in the 60s in them black and white videos, where you see, I saw one video where a black man got off a Greyhound bus and a bunch of white men met him after he got off the Greyhound bus, and one of them kicked him in his backside, kicked him in his ass, and one of them pushed him, spit on him. All that stuff, you can't do that no more. Forget about what the police gonna do to you. They gonna lock you up. But before they come and lock you up, you might get your ass whipped out here. You see, this is causing a mental break with some of these people. They're having a mental break. They are willing to throw their religion, their beliefs in God, in order to elect a man like Donald Trump, because they think Donald Trump is going to bring back some type of white power in this country. It's never going to happen. We too integrated. We too integrated out here. It's going to be a lot of death, a lot of people getting their ass whipped. It's going to be total chaos. It's not going to happen. Not only is it not going to happen, but you're going to have whites who are going to stand up with us against racism. And that's the fear that some of these white people in this country that have hatred in their heart, that's the fear that they have. I'm finna prove it to you. I'm finna prove it to you. See, I was going to do my show on fascism. I'm going to save that for next week. You see, the reason why I was going to do my show on fascism, because you hear white people throw that word around all the time. Most black people don't even use that word unless they highly educated. You know, the CNN blacks that get on there analyzing stuff, they might say the word fascism, but you don't hear too many blacks on the street level talking about fascism. But they need to know what that word is. And I was going to do my show today on fascism, but I'm going to wait till next week. But right now, I want to get into the mental health illness that's floating around white America on this segment. Next segment, I'm going to talk about black America's mental health issues. Okay, here's a man who got interviewed. He's a neo-Nazi. This man got interviewed by a reporter. Okay, he's going to explain to you exactly where this fear, where this craze comes from in the white population. Listen to this.
Wrought of discord in Ulysses, Pennsylvania, population 690. With the help of the internet, his message has spread far and wide, giving his town attention it does not want.
Rural America spoke up when they elected Trump. Rural America.
And by rural America, he means white America.
We're staring down the barrel of a gun here in white America. There's still 193 million white Americans. Yes, the vast majority of them are in their 60s and 70s, will be in the ground in the next 20 years, and therefore we have the possibility of becoming a minority in our own country. A possibility.
It sounds to me
of becoming a minority in our own country.
Like you're afraid of being me. And being me
This is my country.
is great. This is also my country.
You guys didn't win the culture war.
He invited us on his property to talk, but when he doesn't like our conversation, he explodes.
Get the out of here now!
You see this guy? Now, This is so disturbing. I'm finna point out a lot of things that he said, what she said, and look in the background. You see school buses lined up. That means wherever this man is preaching his hatred, there's a school somewhere nearby. You got school buses lined up in the background. That means these kids that go to school in that area are seeing all of these neo-Nazi flags. That means he's preaching hate and teaching it to a next generation of people. Y'all got to understand this. Look at that video real closely. Look at it. You got school buses in the background. Then analyze the craziness what he said. He said that whites right now are staring down the barrel of a gun. The reason why is because most of the whites in this country are in the 60s and 70s. In the next 20 years, they're going to be dead. That means whites might become the minority. The woman told him, she's a black woman or she's mixed. She told him, it looks like you're scared to be me. Then he replied, this is my country. Like she doesn't belong here. She told him, hey, this is my country too. That is the mental disorder that white people are having. That's the fear, the mental break these people are having. They don't get it. They don't understand that we are never going back to white rule. It's over with. And they can't compute that in their mind. It's amazing to them. They are having a mental breakdown. And I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about an overall population of people. They're having a mental break with reality. These people went out here and voted for one of the most biggest, outright racist people I've seen become president since Reagan. And Reagan hid his so well through all of his speech. That's why they call him the Big Gipper. You know, the great orator. Because he was so good at hiding his bigotry that you had black people that loved it, Reagan. And they didn't understand Reagan didn't like black people like that. He didn't fool with black people like that. Anybody living in that era, like me, can tell you that Reagan, he didn't play no games with no black people. Didn't care too much about you at all. He dealt with you because you an American and you lived here. But man, he wasn't about you. Donald Trump is different from Reagan. He's outright with it. With no filter. I'm finna go further into this. Because the man said something else to this reporter that's disturbing. He talked about the Jews. You see, this stuff right here is causing a mental disorder in the white population. These people seriously think that, you know, somebody's out to get them. Listen to what he said also about Adolf Hitler and the whole German war. Listen to this.
In the calm of this rural northern Pennsylvania town, a sign that hate lives here. Are you a neo-Nazi?
Do I embrace it? I don't try to push it away.
Well, you're wearing a swastika on your shirt.
Exactly.
And you've got swastika flags. Why the flags? Why the shirt? Why these hateful symbols in this town?
I don't think they're hateful. I think it's an ideology that has been completely misinterpreted since the Third Reich.
Okay, now I've got to stop you.
Like I'm a
misinterpreted. Misinterpreted. 6 million Jews were killed.
You'll never sell me on that.
I'm not trying to sell you. It is reality. It's history. It cannot be denied. Daniel Burnside is a lightning.
Now, I played that clip for you because, again, this is the mental disorder that this guy has. He don't believe that Hitler had internment camps killing Jews. He don't believe this. They got documentations all over the planet how Hitler killed hundreds of thousands of Jews. And he don't believe this. This is madness. This is a mental disorder. 42% of the white population in this country, actually not the white population, 42% of the voting population voted for Donald Trump. That's scary. That means 42% of the white population and the Hispanic population and a few blacks that voted for him. These people don't understand. This is a mental break. These people have been living in fear. You ain't got nothing to fear from me. I don't care nothing about what you got. I don't want your woman. I don't want your money. I don't want your car. Just stay out my way so I can get my own money. They don't get that. They think black is terrible. Black is bad. Black man come around. I'm going to tell y'all what I did to a white guy at the gas station right up the street from my house. I'm sitting in the car eating my breakfast sandwich. He gets out of his big old truck. He had a big old dually truck with the big old double tire rims on the back. And when he saw me sitting in my car eating my breakfast sandwich, getting ready to go to work, because I didn't want to drive and eat and spill crumbs all over my car. Soon as he looked back and saw me sitting in my car, before he walked in the gas station, he clicked his alarm button. Click, click. I said, oh, you think I'm finna steal that old ugly truck? I don't want that truck. Don't like nothing about that truck. Okay. So, I done finished my breakfast sandwich. I'm finna go ahead and get a refill on my coffee. He comes out the gas station with a bag of ice. He goes to the back of his truck, let down the tailgate, and start filling up ice inside of his water cooler or cooler in the back of the truck. So as I'm going in the store to refill on my coffee, I click my button on his ass. Click, click. He jumped. Looked around. I looked him dead in his eyes. Like, yeah, I don't want you stealing my car. But the fact that he jumped, he couldn't believe somebody clicking their alarm on him. I just clicked my alarm on you, because I don't know what you gonna do. You might try to rob me. And don't get it twisted, people. You always supposed to be safe out here. There's nothing wrong with hitting your alarm when you're going into a store because you don't want nobody to break in your car. But the fact was, the man parked his car, got out, and didn't click his alarm as soon as he got out. He waited till he walked up to the store, and then he looked back and saw me sitting in my car. And then he decided to click, click. But I guarantee you, if I wouldn't been sitting in that car, he wouldn't have hit his alarm. He would have left that car unlocked, went in there, got what he went in and bought, and would have came back, got in his truck, and left. I guarantee you. This is a mental disorder. And the fact that he couldn't believe somebody locked their car on him, I can look at him and tell the way he jumped. I scared him. He probably ain't never had nobody do that to him before. You know, he ain't had nobody click their alarm on him before. It was funny when he jumped. He was like, oh, what's going on? It scared him. This is a mental disorder. Some people just don't understand how the whole white and black issues in America is affecting all the other races of people that live in this country. It done got so bad to the point where some of these people are becoming racist. They don't even realize it. They don't even get it. They don't even realize it. You see, there's a difference between a country like England that gave up their slaves on their own. You see, America didn't give up their slaves on their own. We had a civil war because of that. And other things too, but mostly because of slavery. We had a civil war. They was forced to give up their slaves. You see, there's a difference. When you forced to give up something, it affects your mind. When you make up your mind that all men are created equal, you give up your slaves freely. Like, here, man, you know, this is not right. But when you're forced to give up your slaves, Now you feel like somebody did you wrong. And what happens is, over the hundreds of years of this country, that original sin of slavery and the people being forced to give up their slaves, it has affected some of these people's minds. Now you got people out here running around in the streets about masks. They don't want to wear masks. You forcing these people to wear masks. It goes back to the whole slavery thing. I don't want you telling me what to do, but you're saving other people's lives and maybe somebody in your family. I don't care. This is America. I can do what I want to do. Y'all need to sit back and just look at some of these Republican governors who are refusing to make people wear masks. Just sit back and look at some of these people, how they talk. Just sit back and study them. I guarantee you, in your mind, you're going to say, that guy, he off. Like, it's something wrong with him mentally. That's what you're going to say in your mind. If you sit back for like 5 minutes, just watch some of these people talk. Look at Donald Trump. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to talk about the Republican governors. Look at our president, Donald Trump. Just sit back and just watch him. You're going to say to yourself, man, it's something off about this cat. He mentally challenged. Really? This guy is mentally challenged. I'm not going to use the R word. I'm not going to use retarded because that's offensive. You know, we used to use that word back in the 80s. I'm not going to use that word. But he's mentally off. If you sit back and just look at Donald Trump, you're going to be like, man, ain't no way in hell he should be nowhere near the White House. At all. But 42% of the population of America voted for this man. That's scary. I'm finna get into this next commercial break, and when we come back, I'm finna jump off the white people and I'm finna jump into the black people's mentally ill problems in this country. Because what's going on, like I said, whites and blacks who have a love and hate relationship with each other, it's damaging this country so bad that even all the other races that live here now are starting to be racist and have racist ticks about them and quirks about them, and you know it's just too much. It's too much, and ain't nobody paying attention to the mental aspect of it. We finna go into this next commercial break, and like I said, when we get back, I'm finna jump on the black side of this, the mentally ill problems in America. We'll be back.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Anybody from the funeral home is going to stay back on this side of the funeral home. But anybody from the funeral home. So on that side, on the side, all the way back. Quickly, you gotta move. Gotta crawl.
Off the median. You bad.
Down.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
All right, people, we're back with the Daily Read. And for this last segment, I want to talk about black issues now. The black people in this country have deep and serious mental ill problems. Okay? And a lot of it stems from bigotry. A lot of it stems from slavery. And it led up through Jim Crow, the Civil Rights Movement. It's madness. Straight madness. I just talked about white people's madness and where some of their madness stems from. Their madness stems from a fear. Most of their madness stems from a fear that they're going to become the minority and they're not going to have white privilege in this country. Most of their madness comes from they feel like this is their country and everybody else is just guests here, which is false. Period. End stop. Minorities' madness comes from the want to have white privilege. I'm going to let that sit on your soul for a minute. Meditate on that. Just meditate on it for a minute. You know, because see, we so badly want to be accepted that you got women and men walking around here with skin lightening cream. What is this about? I mean, it's crazy. Look at one of our greatest icons, Michael Jackson. I watched this man go through the era of being a child with the afro, dark-skinned, dancingest man I ever seen, to a white zombie. I've never seen nothing like that. A white zombie. I'm talking about serious. It was crazy. And mentally, we blacks are so messed up mentally in our communities that even when the allegations of child molestation came out, we still was like, no, in denial. You know, this is some mental ill stuff. And I ain't here to hold your hand. I'm here to give you the real about what's going on in this country. I don't care if you don't like me. I'm good in life. I'm straight. I ain't the richest man in the world. I don't own a Bentley. I'm good. I'm cool. But the black mentally ill problems in this country stems from the want to be noticed. The want to sit at the table with the white people. Even if that means stepping on your own race. As long as you get to dine out with the blonde-haired girl who's popular. You know, you might even lighten your skin up. I'm finna give you some example of what I'm talking about with these people. Listen to Ben Carson.
I have to tell you, Obamacare is really, I think, the worst thing that has happened in this nation since slavery. And it is, in a way, it is slavery, in a way, because because it is making all of us subservient.
Now you hear this creep, and I called him a creep. He's an educated creep. I've never seen nothing like this. There is nothing that any politician can do that's worse than slavery. Obama was trying to help the poor people get a fair shake when it comes to health care. That's no reason for whites and some blacks in this country to hang him for. And when I say hang him, I don't really mean hang him for real. I mean disrespect him for. It was an honorable thing. Could he did something else? Yeah. Could he talked about tax reform? Yeah. Could he talked about prison reform? Yeah. But health care was something that wasn't that bad. And a lot of people that got Obamacare right now, that was talking all that trash about him, now that Donald Trump is trying to get it taken, they need this stuff. They need it. It's madness. Looney Tune. You can pull this straight out of a cartoon comic strip that's going on in this country. I'm finna move on to somebody else. I'm not even gonna do Candace Owens. I don't even want to give her no airplay. Y'all need to go and watch this lady. Just sit back and watch her talk sometime. Look at her eyes. You can tell she's broken inside. In the back of her, when you see her speak, you can tell that's a broken woman. It's something wrong with her. I'm finna get to this old guy running around here with this Confederate flag. Listen to him.
And buddy, let me tell you something. That X is a Christian symbol. That X is Andrew up on that cross. Because Andrew knew that the first three words of Christ's name in Greek meant it was an honorable thing. If you didn't know how to read and write your name, you put an X on the paper because it was a Christian symbol. Don't you come around here and telling me about what Beauregard and his men did. They had the stars and bars because they believed that you Yankee friends hijacked the stars and stripes. And it looked so much alike in a battle when one of them, they third, men were shooting on their own men. And when the Southern men chose this flag, they knew it was a Christian symbol. So don't come around here lying on my flag.
Crazy. Straight cray. Understand what I'm telling you, people. This is straight craziness. That flag stands for white supremacy. See, it's men like him that if a race war jumped off in this country, they're gonna lose. The races are gonna lose because we got too many whites on our side. But you're gonna have men like this guy right here, Ben Carson, Candace Owens, Silk and Diamond. You're gonna have men and women like them that are gonna stab you in your back and kill you for bigotry. I promise you. Y'all might be hiding out somewhere. The whole country done went into a civil war. They're gonna turn you in. I'm not joking. They're gonna turn you in. You might be a part of the resistance, trying to fight bigotry and all these neo-Nazis out here. They're gonna turn you in. I want that to sit on your soul for a minute. It's crazy. These people are so stuck on wanting to be accepted by white people instead of living in your own skin, instead of basking in your own beauty. They're willing to be subservient to another race of people who think they're superior to you. It's crazy. Looney Tunes. I've never seen nothing like this. This is America's mental illness that's floating around this country. I'm not even gonna get on the fact that in certain cities you got minorities that will kill you because you looked at them wrong in the club. Why? That man might not even been looking at you. He might have been looking past you at somebody else that was behind you. It's fruity. It's nut cases out here. I'm finna get to one of the biggest nutcases of all. Kanye West. I said it. Craziness. Listen to this.
And the most racist thing that's ever been said out loud is the idea that if Kanye West runs for president, I'm gonna split the black votes. Well, Harriet Tubman never actually freed the slaves. She just had the slaves go work for other white people.
Is a nutcase. Straight nutcase. I've never seen nothing like this, people. Crazy. And I didn't even play the White House interview that when he sat in the White House with that old red make America great again hat on when he was talking to Donald Trump. I could have pulled out clips of that. It would have blew your mind. Your mind would have literally exploded to listen to the garbage that was coming out of his mouth. It's a mental illness that's floating around this country. You got whites out here who like big butts, tan skin, nice luscious lips, but they don't like black people. You got black people out here that like lighter skin, straight hair, you know, but they don't like white people. It's crazy. Do an experiment. Do an experiment with your friends. Don't let them know you're doing it. Go to a club with your girlfriends or your homeboys and look around the room. Ask all of them, say, hey man, which one of the girls in here you think is the prettiest girl in here? I guarantee you, they're going to pick the light-skinned girl in the club that might have all kinds of problems. She might got 4 or 5 kids, 3 or 4 different baby daddies, can't get a job because she smokes so much weed she can never pass a marijuana test. And all the dark-skinned women, there might be 2 of them sitting in the corner somewhere. They got bachelor degrees. They might be a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist. Got careers, got maybe 1 child, maybe no kids. They'll look right past them. They'll see the light-skinned girl sitting in the corner, they think she Beyonce or something. Oh man, that's the prettiest girl in here right there, man. Madness. Straight madness. And then you got the whole the whole skin lightening cream situation. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. The whole skin lightening thing is because some blacks have become aware that your dark skin can shut doors in your face. Even if you got money, can shut doors in your face. So they get out here and become IG models or you know, some kind of entertainer or host of a show. And next thing you know, you see them 2-3 years later, you be like, man, that person look different. What's going on with this person? Some people say, oh man, she's making money now. That's not exactly what it is. They're starting to look different, not just because they're making money, because they're starting to appear more pleasing to the white eye. Understand that. They're more pleasing to the white eye. I remember when I played basketball at Dyersburg State. I'll never forget this. I had long dreads. Now you see dreads in all kinds of sports. But back then, my coach pulled me and a guy from Memphis in his office. He said, man, y'all some of my best players on this team. But we got a dress code. You're going to have to cut your dreads, and that curl you got, you're going to have to get rid of that curl. Me and my teammate, we looked at each other sitting in his office, and I looked at my coach, and I told coach, I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not even going to tell you the year it was, because somebody might try to go back and research it. I'm not going to tell you. But just know, when I played basketball for Dyersburg State, that man looked me in my face and told me I had to cut my dreads. I'm one of the best power forwards and small forwards on the team. I can switch back and forth. And I could take a beating down low. I was a beast. That man looked me in my face, told me I had to cut my dreads. He got to cut me off the team. I stood up and walked out. And went and played golf to finish up my curriculum. Because I wanted to continue on to get my sports credit. Don't even like golf. I just took a sport just to feel it out. Don't even like golf. But it was the principle. I'm not finna sit here and let you tell me that my natural hair is a problem. Especially now that I see, and when I look back, I say I was right. I was in the right. Because now I can look on TV and see damn near dozens of basketball and football players with dreadlocks. Some of them longer than what I had. Right now, playing professional sports and college sports. Dreadlocks. And that man told me to cut my hair. I said, no way. I'm not going to cut mine. Now, I don't know what my teammate did. I don't know if he wound up getting rid of it, because I never saw him again after I quit the team. Because my classes was different from most of my teammates' classes. And we didn't hang in the same circles. I think he was from Memphis and I was from another part of West Tennessee. So he hung with different circles of friends than I did. So I don't know what he did, but I refuse. I'm not going to cut my hair. And I never went back to none of their games. Never supported them. I didn't sit on the bench and help them out. I didn't go to none of the games. I didn't become a booster. I didn't do none of that. Nothing. We got to understand that there is a bad mental illness floating around this country dealing with whites and blacks. A terrible mental illness. And it's not being addressed. You got whites living in fear of becoming a minority, thinking somebody's going to do something or take something from them. I don't want nothing from you. Most black people don't want nothing from you except to stay out my way and let me get my money. That's it. I'm not trying to rape your woman. I'm not trying to steal your car. I don't want nothing from you. But stay out my way and let me make my own money. That's it. And on the black side, we have this mental illness of wanting to be accepted by people that don't like you. Want to be like white people. Wanted to jail with them. If they righteous, they gonna jail with you anyway. If they righteous, they gonna kick it with you anyway. You don't have to change yourself, your skin tone, or none of that to be with these people. Because if they like you, they're gonna like you, period. Whether you dark skin or light skin. Period. We got to address this mental illness that's floating around this country. Because all of the other races, like I said, I'm not going to talk about them as far as their mental illnesses when it comes down to bigotry in this country. But just know that every other race is being affected subconsciously by what they seeing black and white America going through. And they're taking sides. You don't see it because you're looking at the trees instead of the forest. I'm looking at the forest. So you don't see it. You don't understand what I'm seeing. That's why at the beginning of this show, I told you how if you look at the Indian people that come here and open up these corner stores, they might marry a white man or a white woman or their own kind. You very rarely see them marry a black person because subconsciously they already done took a side. They already understand that whites hold the power in this country. Puerto Ricans. Most Puerto Ricans live in the same areas we live at as black people. They automatically, most of the time, date other blacks or date other Puerto Ricans. Every now and then you might see a Puerto Rican girl marrying a white guy. There are always exceptions to the rules. But overall, the majority of Puerto Ricans jail with black people. That means the Puerto Ricans already took a side. So I'm hoping I'm getting through to you. The situation between whites and blacks in this country is affecting all of the other races in this country. I'm going to give you one more. The Mexicans. There's a lot of whites in this country who can't stand Mexicans. Hate their guts. But the vast majority of Mexicans already know who hold the power in this country. It's white people. So when it comes down to Mexicans, I'm not talking about no other type of Hispanics. I'm talking about strictly, specifically Mexicans. So when it comes down to Mexicans, they rather deal with white people than deal with black people. They don't think that I speak a little Spanish. I hear them talking sometimes. I hear the slick comments they say, and I sit back because they don't understand that I know a little bit of Spanish. I be sitting in my truck listening to them. Yeah. And it boggles my mind. They don't get it. A lot of whites don't want you here. But they've already taken a side in the white and black struggle. And they chose the side of the white people who don't like them. So it's crazy. It's a mental illness. You had a white man get on stage, Donald Trump, I'm going to call him out, and say Mexicans are rapists and murderers. We got to keep them out the country. I know Mexicans. A Mexican will beat up a rapist. And if they catch him somewhere and ain't nobody around, he might disappear. I know Mexicans. They don't like rapists and murderers and all that stuff. That don't mean that they won't kill you or hurt you. But they're not no rapists and murderers. I know these people. They some very honorable people. But they can be a little bigoted too. They can. But that don't mean that they all rapists and murderers. They don't want rapists around. And for a man to get up there and say that about Mexican people and then turn around the 2016 election, the vast majority of Hispanic Mexicans that voted for Donald Trump. This is a mental illness. You got to be off your rocker. Like I said, I didn't want to get into all the other races that live in this country because everything started with the original sin of America, which was slavery. And everything further that goes along in this country dealing with mental illness and racism, it starts with whites and blacks in this country. And all the other races around us that live here are feeding off of our negative or positive energy. They're feeding off of it. And they're choosing sides. Bigotry will never win. If an all-out war did break off, bigotry won't win. The side of hatred won't win. But it's going to be enough death and destruction in this country to cause major damage. We got to get a control over this mental illness that's floating around this country. Instead of doing all of these pills and we need to start hiring more psychiatrists and start having conversations and start going into these communities and talking to people. I'm finna end today's show and I hope some of y'all learn something from this because I do this for the love. You know what I'm saying? The money, I don't get no money for this. None at all. I do this for the love of it because I want people to have an understanding of why things are moving the way it's doing in America. Because people can teach you the politics of it all day long. People can call out Democrats and Republicans all day long. But at the end of the day, there is so much hatred and mental illness going on in this country, and ain't nobody addressing it. Nobody even talking about it. They're sweeping it up under the rug. So next week, like I said, I was gonna talk about fascism, but next week on Sunday's show, I'm gonna talk about fascism and what that means for us minorities, because this is important. Most of us minorities don't even know what the word fascism is, or fascist. These are some very corrupt and very vile people. So this is the Daily Read, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and catch me next Sunday. Thank you.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Business.